Go. Go.
All right. Is there a reflection now? Is there reflection? Do you see reflection from glasses? That's fine. Do without glasses.
I guess it's all recording.
All right.
Really need an assistant here.
That's fine. That's fine. There are some children here. So. Can we, извините, можно попросить не стучать?
I think you can relax and maybe you can start.
I don't know, they're banging the little child, and they can go like half an hour. Oh, are they going? That's good. Да, если можно, пожалуйста. Спасибо.
So, like, we can start telling the same stuff of the like Mexico and other people who wanted to explain their kind of an interesting. That was interesting point from alchemy to alcohol and when it came to modern chemistry and also the C60. Okay, but that's Lumion. Let's get back to that. But Metnikov and the natural limit of 150 years, that should be also.
Okay. So basically, we're interested in life extension, right? And of course, we are not the first who thought about it. Actually, we are descendants in a very long line of brilliant thinkers. Of course, the pursuit of life extension started for thousands of years ago with the early attempts made by the ancient Egyptians and later by the Mesopotamians. Everybody heard about the story of Gilgamesh. But the scientific pursuit of life extension actually started about 100 years ago with the Russian scientist named Eli Mechnikov. Actually, he was Russian by birth, but he worked all over Europe. He can be considered pan-European or also international. And some of his contributions to the field included one of the first theories of aging, which was truly scientific. And based on this theory, the array of means to combat aging. And this is how modern science works. First, we study aging, we study what aging is, how it works, what the mechanisms are involved. And then based on this mechanism, we try to develop interventions. And all this started about 100 years ago, and it gives a lot of hope. Because before Mechnikov, we didn't even know what is aging. Some people talked about loss of vital heat, some people talked about organism drying up, but in terms of tissues and organs, he was the first to propose a truly scientific theory. And now the theories are more advanced, but we actually follow the same principle. First we establish the mechanism, and then we learn how to intervene into it. All this is just 100 years. We can imagine what can happen in 50 more years. But of course there were other pioneers, not just Mechnikov. There were people who pioneered hormone replacement therapy, like Brown-Séquard, also in the early, in the late 19th century. First, the treatments could be considered a little funny, even bizarre. He took extracts from dog testicles and injected himself, and then reported some rejuvenating effects. Okay, and we can now laugh at it, but it was the beginning of modern endocrinology, modern therapeutic endocrinology. And this is how it works. You start from the basic study of aging, and you develop actual treatments that can help in real life problems. So even if we don't solve aging now, along the way we discover all kinds of things that can help us. And this is why investment in aging research are justifiable. A lot of policymakers don't think we should invest a lot into aging, into research of aging, because they don't see immediate profits. They have to be elected in 4 years, and in commercial companies it is even worse. Every year they have to submit a yearly balance, profits against expenses. So if you invest into aging, you don't see the profit immediately. But you have to understand that you don't solve the problem right away, you don't solve the problem of aging right away, but you get all kinds of incremental benefits along the way. So I just gave an example of hormone replacement therapy by Brown-Séquard. There is also an example of Mechnikov's probiotic therapy, which is also born out of research of aging, and now it is a multi-billion industry. There are several other examples. Nanomedicine that was developed by Auguste Lumière in the study of rejuvenation by microparticles. The study of tissue culture by Alexis Carrel, also in the pursuit of immortalization or tissue rejuvenation. So all the current biotechnology, all the tissue and cell culture started from rejuvenation attempts. So rejuvenation attempts and life extension attempts are valuable in and of themselves, because out of them a lot of valuable scientific information comes, and a lot of usable products come. So once again, it is not all or nothing. Every little incremental advance we make will be beneficial for us. So that's a very practical reason why we should invest in aging research, why governments should invest in aging research. But there are many others. There are many others.
Of course, if we screw up in some questions, we can take a retake results if you think you missed or missed something else. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the main reason we as a society should invest in aging research is because aging is a huge societal problem. It is not an academic problem. It is not some basic theoretical problem, but it is a very pressing social problem. And a lot of people start to talk about this problem and call the governments to address it, but not a lot of people think about treating it at the root. And the root is entirely biological. The problem of aging, the aging population, comes from the biological degeneration that is due to aging. And if you want a real solution, not just some placebo effects, bringing some foreign workers to care for our elderly, or turn our society into a huge nursing home, or develop all kinds of placebo effects, to make the passing away easier. These are not solutions. The solutions are to really try to treat the degeneration of aging, and it is possible. Aging is a material mechanistic process, like all the other processes. When something is broken, you try to fix it. You don't just let it go to waste, especially when it is something valuable like a human life. So you try to fix it, and this is why we should expend our resources onto this problem.
And also, anytime if you forget to say something, you can put it somewhere in between, because we have the possibility to edit later.
Exactly. It is very important to emphasize that once again, it is not a scientific problem. It is not a problem that can be solved by a couple of scientists sitting somewhere at a prestigious university. It is a problem of our entire society, because only the entire society can provide the resources that are needed to solve this, or even begin to address this problem. And if some therapies for the generation of aging are developed, the society, if it invests resources, it is entitled to demand access to those therapies. Because otherwise, if only rich people are investing in this, then they will patent it. So they'll make sure that only they have the access, or they will try to sell it for unbelievable profits. But if we as a society take it as a national priority or as an international priority, and say to our governments, we have to invest in it, then we as people are entitled to demand to be included into our usual medical entitlements that we have. Only this way we are entitled to it. And if we leave all this to the rich people, they can do whatever they want, right? It will be much more difficult, to demand access afterwards. So we have to think in advance. We have to make this pursuit really democratic, we have to understand that every one of us can have a say in this. It's like a lot of the green movement, right? The green movement also deals with survival, but at the planetary level. And we speak about survival at the social level, at the individual human level. And like the green movement convinced people that if we don't do something urgently, our planet will die. The same way, we aging research advocates, we say that if we don't do something urgent about aging, we as persons, as people, we are going to die prematurely. So we should act for aging research with the same urgency as the green activists act for the sake of the environment. So that's our model.
Keep going.
So, would you like me to repeat the last part, or?
No, not necessarily. If you already come up with something else, you can start that or continue. I'm still looking for one of my. Did we go through already all the other kind of historical, you sort of did mention the.
Yes.
Like hormone replacement, probiotics, development of clinical criminology, tissue engineering, cell therapy, and tissue transplantation. So did we cover that?
Yes, these are some of the most important developments that came out of aging research. There are good grounds to believe that if we continue to invest in aging research, that more practical developments will emerge, for the simple reason that aging is the root cause of most aging-related diseases, of most degeneration, not just chronic non-communicable diseases like cancer, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, but also the risk to die or to be affected by infectious disease also increases rapidly with aging. So instead of treating problems, instead of treating leaves and branches, you treat the root, right? Instead of trying to go after every single symptom, every single disease there is, you have to go after the root cause, after aging, after the general deterioration of the organism. And this is why these therapies that were developed in the research of aging were more effective. Actually, I'm not aware of too many therapies against specific chronic diseases. I'm not aware of too many therapies developed for cancer specifically, or for diabetes specifically, that are truly, you know, truly curative. They are not just symptomatic, you know, don't just relieve symptoms. But if you treat aging, you can actually strengthen the organism in such a way that will be resistant even to the emergence of such diseases. So you really fix the organism at the root. So you make it difficult for specific diseases to enter. And this is why these therapies are more effective. And this is why if we learn from history that specific therapies were developed in the study of aging, we can believe that more therapies will be developed if we continue this research.
So I have kind of underlined some stuff. Did you already go through this, or do you remember? Because I think this is like something very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I said all this, I think.
Okay.
And what you have to understand, the entire problem of life extension, both early and now, it can be divided into three parts, right? First, it is the feasibility. Is it possible to achieve life extension or healthy life extension? Second is the desirability question. Do we want it if it is possible? And third, if it is possible and if it is desirable, what are we going to do about it as individuals, as society? So this is how we should look at it. So the answer to the first two questions are just unequivocally yes. Yes, it is possible to extend healthy life, not just on pure theoretical biological grounds, because aging is a material process that we can intervene into a material process. If you can break something, you can also fix something if it is material. So on pure theoretical biological grounds, it is possible. There is no limit to human lifespan. There is no law in nature that says that people have to die at 120, no, not 122. So there is no theoretical limitations to this pursuit. And also there are very many proofs of feasibility. So we cannot even begin to list those proofs of feasibility, but they come from all over the place. There are regenerative therapies that are being developed, regeneration from within. Actually, there are several proofs of principle that important organs were regenerated, like the thymus, for example, by simple biological manipulation. There can be a replacement of organs from without. There are a lot of work being done on growing artificial organs for transplantation by various means, scaffolds, bioreactors, self-organization, 3D printing. All this didn't exist 10 years ago. Also, there are certain so-called geroprotective or anti-aging therapies, even in drugs, simple drugs that were shown to extend life in animal models, a lot of genetic modifications. So all these proofs of principle show that yes, it is possible in principle, so it is feasible. We just have to research more into it, have to invest more into it, and make sure that these therapies are applicable to humans, that are safe to humans. All this demands more research and more resources. So that's on the side of feasibility, no question about it. It is possible to extend life. Do we want it? I think also, yeah, the answer is quite obvious. Yes, of course we want it. You know, every one of us wants to survive tomorrow, and if you want to survive tomorrow, why not in 10 years or longer? Once again, there is no limit. A lot of talk about, undesirability of life extension comes from the fact that people don't think something can be done about it. And when people don't think something can be done about it, then they tend to rationalize. They tend to think that we shouldn't even want it, right? The sour grapes syndrome. If the grapes are out of our reach, they're also sour, we say. But if we understand that there are things that can be done for aging, against aging, then we begin to think in a whole different perspective. We can understand that it is something that we want as individuals. We want to extend our life, and we also want it as a society. We want to extend the life of our dear, near ones, of our family, of our close ones, of our friends, of our whole society, because that's something that can really put cohesion into society. That is our common task. some person has this purpose in life, some person has another purpose in life, but we all have one purpose in life, that is life itself, right? So extended life is our all common purpose, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of religious background a person has or what nationality he has. We all have this common denominator. We all want our life extended. So this is one thing that can really unite the world. So that is something we want both as individuals and society. All right. So if we want something, if it is possible. All right.
Could you go through the desirability, visibility, and action already?
No, I just went through desirability and feasibility.
Okay, so you are doing it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check both pictures, but I don't have the microphone.
Okay, so if something is possible to achieve, if it is something that we want, then obviously a rational thing to do would be to do something to get it, right? Like with the spouse, you know, if you want somebody and you think it is possible, you know, you have to go after that person, right? You don't just sit in the corner and wait for things to happen. So that's the same with life extension. We have to do something. What can we do? Now the question becomes interesting. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. There are many directions of research that people can pursue. As I mentioned, there is regenerative medicine, the neuroprotective medications, there's genetic engineering, there's epigenetic engineering. 1001 directions that can be pursued. Also, as activism, what can we do? We can create movies. We can build our community. We can meet online, in person. We can talk with people. We can lobby our governments. We can address politicians. We can petition. A lot of things we can do as a civic society. But the most important thing is to do something, right? You know, to act. If we all act with the same purpose, which is healthy life extension, then we create a gradient. Some person goes little that direction and some other person goes little this direction, but we have a common gradient, a whole common direction. So this way we create a common stream. And the hope is that from this common stream, some direction will be more successful, but we have to create the pressure in that direction. You know, as a society, we have to push toward the direction of life extension, and then we begin to think of solutions. If we don't even set this goal, then we don't even start to think of solutions. But when we set, this is where we want to go, so this is the direction where we're moving, right? And then we can gauge if we are moving successfully, if we are straying from the way, have we achieved our goals or not. But first of all, we have to set this goal as individuals, as society, and then we start to think what we can do about it. Generally, there can be, on the societal, on the governmental level, there can be 3 suggestions. But of course, there can be many more, but this kind of summarizes. First of all, we have to increase funding for aging research. Because without funding, without money, not much can be done. You know, people can scribble on the paper, on the computer, as long as they want, but they have to buy reagents, you have to buy biological materials, you have to do tests, you have to pay the staff, you need money. You know, not a lot of people work out of pure enthusiasm. So in order for science work, for basic science to work, you have to give funding for it, and there is funding available. The trillions are being expended on the war effort, sometimes unnecessarily on the war machines. A lot is spent on unnecessary bureaucracy. There is money. So at least our purpose is to at least begin to divert some of this money to something that matters to our entire society. So the first thing is funding. The second thing is incentive. Not everything can be bought. Something can be, just encouraged. For example, you can give certain status to people who deal with aging research. You can facilitate the translation from basic research to therapies. To install regulation that will make this translation easier. Simply give recognition to this field. So the second part is incentives. And the third part is institutional support. You have to create institutions that deal specifically with this problem, even at the national level. If not in a lot of countries there is a national aging research program. I think there's in no country there is such a program, and we need to establish such programs. In some countries there are the grant funding opportunities, like in the US, it is the National Institute of Aging, which is $1 billion, also not a lot of money, but at least they give some support on a competitive basis. But we need to think, like as a government, as a society, how can we build a national aging research program? What would be involved? What kind of data we would need? You think you have to think on the state level. Like if a government tackles a certain national problem, a certain national challenge, like building a strategic road or ameliorating some harmful environment, or addressing some natural disaster, right? They think strategically. What resources we have, how do we address it? And that's what needs to be done with aging. So these three things can be recommended to this in terms of policy, at least to start the discussion of policy. And it is our role as activists to raise those issues. We shouldn't just wait for years for the government to think of it. We have to go after them. We have to do something. We have to write letters. Even we sometimes may even seem funny to some people. You have nothing else to do, right? Go earn some money. Go enjoy yourself. No, you can do something useful and bring the subject to public agendas. You can write articles, you can spread the message on social media. A lot of things that we as simple people, as activists, can do to bring this topic to public agenda.
I think the current medical efforts are being directed. So do you think the current medical research and development efforts are directed correctly, or should there be some changes, like are they now concentrating on some single diseases, or should they do more?
Yes, definitely. Of course, I'm not an absolute expert, but from what I see, from what I researched, also my historical research, I see that a lot of effort is being concentrated on specific diseases, on the specific even symptoms, not even disease, but symptoms. The best metaphor is try to cure the leaves and forgetting the root, right? But if the root dries, then all the leaves dry. So if you actually want the leaves to survive, you water the plant, you give some water to the root, and the root is aging. And not just for non-communicable disease, not just for cancer, for the chronic disease, not just for chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes and heart disease, which are the main killers of our Western world, but also the infectious diseases, right? Because with aging, the chance to contract those diseases and to die from them and to have severe consequences of those diseases also increases dramatically. So once again, we have to treat at the root. You have to create some interventions that will address the entire complex of problems. And this way we also save money for the medical establishment, right? So now a lot of money is wasted, right, on all kinds of problems that seem unrelated, but a lot of money goes in different directions. But if you attack the main problem, the root problem, you save a lot of money for the medical expenditure, and at the bottom line, you save money for our whole society. The money you save from the medical expenditure, they go to all of our pockets. They can all to education programs. They can all to go to to social support programs. Because let's face it, a lot of medical resources are wasted. You go to a doctor, he gives you some pill which doesn't work, a lot of money. But if you can actually develop a treatment, even to prevent you going to the doctor, some preventative medicine which would focus on aging, right, on aging and degeneration. That way you save a lot of treatments, not just continuous, but also in the last stage of life, because the most expenditures on health or disease, more correctly, are in the last couple of years of life. So if you manage to postpone this last stage of life even by 2 or 3 years, you save huge amounts of resources for the society. So that is our goal, to extend our healthy lifespan even starting by 2 or 3 years.
So what can be achieved by social and economic factors such as lifestyle changes, diet, exercise?
That is an excellent question. Some people say that what we know already, some things that we know that can extend healthy lifespan, like diet, healthy diet, moderation in diet, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, good physical exercise. All these things are known for thousands of years, and they can still produce good results even now. But we have to think beyond it. We don't throw those means away. We don't say these means are worth nothing. We have to apply them, because they increase our chances to survive until actually effective medical technologies develop. So we use everything in combination. We use healthy lifestyle, we use diets, use exercise, but in the same time we invest in developing biomedical technologies that would go beyond this. Because once again, those treatments were known for thousands of years, and for thousands of years people died at 60, at 70, at 80. We have to think about new therapies that will be able to extend our lifespan more, hopefully. But you don't throw those therapies away, you still continue to use them.
Yeah, so aging also increases the risk of morbidity and mortality from infectious diseases like pneumonia and influenza.
Yes.
Many maybe necessarily realize that it's also a great economic and societal challenge.
Exactly. I'll give you a good example. There is a technique to produce regeneration of the thymus. Our immune system works with T cells. The immune cells that are produced in an organ called thymus. It is located somewhere near the throat. So with age, people lose their immunity simply because there are no more T cells produced by the thymus. So the basic problem in aging is this degeneration of the thymus, and there is a technique, a very quite simple genetic technique to regenerate it by overexpressing a gene called FOXO, and they proved that by this technique it was possible to renew the supply of these T cells. And you have to understand that the renewal of this supply is not just useful for chronic diseases like autoimmune disease. It is also very useful against infectious diseases, even against AIDS. So if you want to address AIDS, this is the big scare, right? All the resources go to that. But if you address aging, you have even better chance to fight AIDS. So once again, aging is really a root of everything. Marius is here.
Yeah. This has only 12-minute short scan. So we started. I think we got to continue.
Another 10 more minutes, I think.
Yeah.
I'm answering questions that I'm not even asked. So it is,
Yeah, it's just whenever something good comes into mind, it's better to keep flowing. It can be edit and cut later. So maybe you start pretty much where you left. So,
with the timers.
maybe you repeat the last of two sentences or something.
Okay, so we have to understand that by addressing aging, we don't just address chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, we also address infectious disease. A lot of people are scared of infectious disease more than they're scared of age-related degeneration, you know, because, you know, infectious disease is something you feel immediately, you know, your throat gets sore, you know, you get temperature, it's not very pleasant. Aging degeneration, you know, you don't feel it as much. But you have to understand that, you know, if you address aging, you also reduce your chances to contract infectious disease, or you become more resistant to it, because it is the same organism, right? It has to be in balance. It has to be in working order. There is a debate: should we address aging diseases, or should we address aging itself, or should we extend life? You know, but it is all semantic expression of the same thing. We want our body to work well, to work in a balanced, you know, efficient way. And we have this: you extend life, you combat diseases, you forestall degeneration of aging. What you have to think about is really our body as a whole, the homeostasis, the stable operation of our body. And that should be the goal of modern medicine. Unfortunately, it is not yet the goal. Unfortunately, modern medicine still looks at particular parts, even in research that look at specific tissue. They don't necessarily consider how the same treatments work, not on a molecular level, but on the level of the entire organism. And that's what we need to do. And next step is, of course, to look how those treatments, how the organism works in interaction with the environment. A lot of people talk about longevity genes, but they have to understand that there's no longevity genes outside of a certain environment, right? You take a person with the perfect set of genes and impose on him an unhealthy lifestyle or a foreign environment, and from the healthiest person he becomes the unhealthiest. So we have to understand that it all has to work in a balanced way. Organism as a whole, the organism in relation with the environment. So I think this should be the direction of medical research, but that's just an opinion, and the more people think about it, the more opinions we have, and the better dialogue we create. The more this becomes a public issue, how we should achieve health.
Well, this aging and disease paper written by Isoad, you were involved. There's a big list of different things that we can use to attack aging, like regenerative medicine, tissue engineering. Maybe you can go shortly through the whole list. Maybe you can explain a little bit something interesting parts of those.
But these are just examples. These are just examples of therapies that can be applied. The most important thing is to set the goal, and technologies will arrive. There's a whole set of different technologies that can be used, so-called geroprotective substances, you know, that are supposed to block some degenerative process of aging. There's regenerative medicine using stem cells from without, or which usually just work on by improving the immune response. A lot of stem cell treatments, they don't actually regenerate the body, but they induce a favorable immune response. But there are other methods in regenerative medicine, for example, regeneration and growing organs and tissues from outside of the body. There is nanomedicine. There are examples of prototypes of artificial immune cells. There are examples of nano devices for oxygen delivery. This is extremely important development, because let's say 100% of cases of death are caused by lack of oxygen supply. So there can be all kinds of different processes, but in the end, what people die from is the lack of oxygen supply. And if we learn to deliver this oxygen by means of nanoparticles or by means of other things like maybe some forms of oxygenation, we can prolong life considerably. But these are just several examples of technologies that can be employed. Of course, we have to know what healthy aging means. We have to do surveillance. We have to gather a lot of data on aging organism, so we'll be able to make more educated decisions about interventions. So data mining is very important. Quantified cells approaches are very important. Actually, a lot will come down to the correct data. The more data on the process of aging we have, the better will be our therapeutic options. So a lot can be done, but we shouldn't just prioritize one direction over another. They can all work in synergy, and they can all work in so-called competition and cooperation at the same time. You know, there's competition, so every method wants to prove its worth, but at the same time they work in cooperation. Each method reinforces the other. So these are converging technologies. This is the best term for it. These technologies are converging. So one technology reinforces the other. So it's a little bit like a snowball. You know, every little snowflake, when it combines with another snowflake, allows the entire snowball to grow and to gather momentum. And this is the same way with anti-aging and life-extending technologies. Each technology, each method, each approach reinforces the other. So you create a multitude of voices, and out of these voices you create this stream that they'll lead us to this direction.
Yeah, of course, the anti-aging research and development, it's like a very incremental process. Nothing will pop up overnight.
Exactly. A lot of people wait just to go to the apothecary, to go to the pharmacy, buy the pill, and before they can buy the pill, they will not bother. You talk about anti-aging, aging. I have my own problems. I have my own life. But when you bring it to the pharmacy, I'll pay 10 euros and I'll buy the pill that will keep me forever. But that's not going to happen probably. As members of societies, as conscious people, we have to do something for it to happen. First of all, we have to work on ourselves. Have to keep our life. Have to maintain a healthy lifestyle. But also, try to help those technologies along. Urge the society to invest into their development. They will not develop by themselves. Somebody has to develop them, and it has to be us, to bring about this process. So that's basically the idea. Life extension has to become a public priority. When it does, all the other things will join. The technologies will be developed and prioritized. The social means will be found. The resources will be found. But first of all, we have to want it, right? If we don't want it, then it's not even going to be an issue.
Well, who would resist it, or what would be the arguments against life extension research? Why not do it?
Why not do it? First of all, there are a lot of well-known arguments like overpopulation and boredom and all other kinds of problems. But let's be honest, these are not real arguments. These are just rationalization. When people don't really think that something can be done against aging or for life extension, they'll come up with 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't pursue it. So we shouldn't even take those arguments too seriously. We have to work on the root. We have to show that it is feasible. And when you prove to a person that it is feasible, his whole mindset changes. He starts to realize that, okay, if it is feasible, it is also desirable. That is something that I've always wanted since I was a child. A lot of us went through this stage. Even in early childhood, they thought, "I'm going to die." And then we were convinced by the society, yes, you're going to die, nothing you can do about it. Just aging is a natural process. Just lie down and die. That's what you're supposed to do. No, when you realize that it's not so, that there is no limit to what you can achieve with your lifespan, then you start to think differently. And then all those rationalizations like overpopulation and boredom and lack of resource, all they flow like dry leaves, you know, because they're nothing more than just some trappings, you know, some beautifications that we built on our fear of death. You know?
Let's at least break even think we really got everything. Well, check the camera and if nothing else comes up.
One thing I'll say about organization, that's it.
As I'm thinking you're getting into the shadows coming kind of here. I'm wondering if we should. We just keep going.
And I've said several times, but I cannot emphasize strongly enough the importance of public involvement, not just as scientists. Of course, it is important to know science, if possible, even to work in science of aging and science of life extension, but even as citizens, it is very important to get involved, to become citizen scientists or to become just lobbyists for aging science. And an important way to do it is to self-organize, right? Each of us can, talk with friends and, post on social media and write articles and to create some noise by our own means. But it is also important to create organizations that would be involved in this. Lobbying organizations, advocacy organizations, both grassroots advocacy, like for the common people, just to raise awareness, and high-level advocacy organizations like to sit on the boards of advisory committees that decide on distributions of funding. So it should work for both from below and from above, so from all directions and sideways, of course. As wide as we can spread will be beneficial. So for that we need organizations. There are several organizations that are being created. For example, the International Longevity Alliance that involves activists from many countries, or the International Society for Aging and Disease, which combines more professional advocates from different countries, but which have a stronger professional background. There are more radical organizations like Longevity or Movement for Indefinite Life Extension or Foundation for Indefinite Lifespans. Many organizations, but it's important to organize. A single voice is nobody. Even if you are Einstein, if you are Darwin, you have to be heard. You have to have an army of teachers that will repeat what you are saying, right? And for that we need organizations. We need massive involvement. So, if listeners, if viewers in their countries can self-organize, can join NGOs or create NGOs, national non-governmental organizations that would be involved in advocacy, because there are very few countries that have such organizations, and even in those countries, those organizations are not very active. So an important way for us to advance is to create those active, operational non-governmental organizations. And we have a lot of examples how this can work. For example, if somebody is going to destroy your neighborhood, if the government wants to destroy your neighborhood, suddenly people self-organize, they form a committee, they become active, they become vocal, they write, they go to demonstrations. But when it comes to our lives, when it comes to us being dead and buried in not in a very long time, but people are silent. Nobody is ready to spend 2 hours a week of his valuable time to do something about it. And this has to change. We have to understand that aging is also a problem like everybody else that needs to be addressed by public means, and we have to do something. We have to self-organize, and in communication we can develop strategies to tackle it. A lot of people talk about critical mass, right? Actually, in life, critical mass for activism is 2 people. When 2 people can get together and think and plan a strategy, that's already the beginning of a movement. in a particular country or in a particular city. So let's find a friend. If it's a spouse, it's even 1,000 times better. But let's find this second person with whom we can start a movement in a particular place, and let's self-organize, and let's create a real public movement for life extension.